Hello, my name is George Sanchez, and I've been assigned to present on Symbolic Convergence theory by Ernest Borman. Ernest Borman wrote his theory based off of findings by Robert Biles, who studied groups and how they acted, basically. And Borman's focus was on the formation of group cohesiveness and consciousness through dramatized messages and fantasies. Now, it's important to note that the term fantasy isn't used by Borman the same way we use the term fantasy. So usually a fantasy refers to a fictional story of some sort. But Borman uses the term to describe events that happen outside of the group or even within the group, but that happened in the past or that will happen in the future. Basically anything not happening here and now. So please keep in mind that that's what it means when I say the word fantasy. So symbolic convergence happens when, first of all, a group member shares a fantasy and they use dramatized messages to share this fantasy. Dramatized messages being enthusiastic ways of portraying the said fantasy. And it has to paint a picture. That's what constitutes as a dramatized message. So it would be the use of facial expressions, hand movements, creative language like personification, metaphors, similes, stuff like that. So when a fantasy is presented, it'll either fall flat within the group and it won't go anywhere, or the group will take up that fantasy theme and each give their own input. And that will create a fantasy chain where everyone gives their input enthusiastically and with dramatized messages, and that forms symbolic convergence and group cohesiveness. So an example of that would be, let's say about 2 years ago, I got together with some old friends of mine that I knew from middle school, and we were all together except for one of our group members. So we were hanging out and talking, and we were wondering where this last group member of ours was. So one of our friends mentioned that he couldn't make it because, according to him, he had been working as an electrician. And that day, he was working with his crew, and as they were working in this unfinished building, the construction crew showed up and asked that they leave. They refused because they had permission to be there, and things escalated, and the construction crew, one of the members of the construction crew, pulled out a pistol and tried to force the electricians to leave. Then the electricians, one of their members, happened to have a pistol, and shots started being fired between the two groups, and the cops showed up and calmed everyone down, and nobody was taken to jail, and nobody was fired or reprimanded in any way. Everyone just, I guess, went home. And this was the story according to our buddy Ben. Now, on that note, I said, hey guys, do you all feel like Ben's stories are sometimes a little far-fetched? And at that point, my friend Tony, he said, oh my gosh, yes. So he started enthusiastically recounting a time where Ben told him a far-fetched story. That prompted another friend of mine to do the same, and it created fantasy theme. The fantasy theme was Ben's stories, and the fantasy chain continued with all of us giving our input. We got very boisterous and we were clamoring over it, and it created group cohesion and group consciousness. So I have my graphical representation here, and as you can see here, I hope you can see, this is this person right here in the group is bringing up a fantasy or a dramatized message, and this group member here gives their enthusiastic input on the fantasy theme that causes the other group members to do the same. creating group cohesiveness and consciousness. I think this theory is applicable in all of our lives. I'm sure that we've all encountered this type of scenario among a group of people, whether they be friends or new acquaintances. And I encourage y'all to look into this theory more. It's very interesting, and I thank you for your time. Have a nice day.